I'm Lisa Starr, and this is Natural Time. It's a video form of a podcast that I do 3 other times a week that you can find on all the platforms. And it's oriented to beginners, so I am happy to spell out some of the basics each time we work through the astrology of the moment, but I am going to cover the astrology that we're passing through, which is the Blue Monkey Wave Spell. And Blue Monkey is a playful time, definitely in being represented by the monkey, reminds us how primates are. They're like a very hairy baby version of our own humanity. So I don't think it's accurate that we've descended from apes per se. Like that's sort of like an imaginal reduction of evolution. But nonetheless, we can see that we're very similar to them. And when we get to the monkey moment, I think the differences that are really striking are that monkeys are not doing any like farming or agricultural planning. They feed by pulling fruit, famously bananas, from trees. So they're foragers, scavengers, not using all of their resources intellectually to make sure they're always safe. And I think that that speaks to a really childlike demeanor, or that there's like an adult version of the Homo sapien, and then, yeah, the child version is the primate. And I think they seem kind of silly too, like children, and to ape someone is to mimic them. And I think that children do so much of that as they're growing, and that we are supposed to like effectively take care of our children and their esteem and help them develop strength internally and selfhood by mimicking what they're doing. So sort of aping them. I'm just laughing because there are so many animals that are in the room where I am speaking to you from. So I'm finding the Blue Monkey time to be very like rich with animal life, and I have quite a coterie. Do you see the shadow of my cat on the wall behind me? I have like a coterie of animals. I just rescued another one, a dog, and I have a pack here of, it's like a nursery full of children. So you might hear still more come through. I feel really low energy. I kind of want to interject that here. I think that Blue Monkey, sadly, and I just gave you like the very generic version, the beginner version, but another way even for beginners to contemplate it is that we explore our child selves in the Blue Monkey time. So it's like for sure monkeys in trees, but it's the childlike nature that we hold. And you can also see that almost everyone on the planet / everyone I know, and even more in a very present moment way, everyone I know can identify. It used to be that everyone maybe had difficulty in their childhood, but now we're in a real awakening where almost everyone can identify that they did, and maybe even describe, why it was so, why was it difficult. So we've got a lot of emotional intelligence over the last generation of people. So Blue Monkey might feel sticky or difficult as we move through these 13 days because of our inner child's foment and discouragement and the traditional issues of being abandoned or neglected or abused, and how maybe the Blue Monkey Wave spell starts with kind of a surge of lightheartedness because, like, check it out, it's really playful and it is silly, and then you find out like, oh, under that trap door or of the genuine joy, there is the other side. And every child has that, right? Like children are like super excited, and then they're having a tantrum and collapsing and tears. And then a minute later, after we attend to them, they're running around silly again. And I think adults do all that, much more slowly. If adults do change that fast in their moods, they're considered mentally ill. Like that's a bipolar moment or something. So I think when adults act like children, they're really lodged in childhood trauma and they can't really escape returning to that, where they're trying to solve what's going on there. So maybe acting like a child or feeling drawn to act childlike in the blue monkey wave spell is sort of like snuck some of us into the nap time meltdown version of what it was like to be really young. I think that blue monkey also, like, let me say the positive part of it is that we have rich imaginations and magical thinking in blue monkey. One of the words for the tribe, the blue monkey tribe, is magical or magic. Like Jose Arguelles chose that, the man who kind of created the modernization of this system and some of the anglicized language. And he was a blue monkey, by the way. But this whole thing that we call magical thinking, it's kind of a new concept to me, where people are just like sort of irrepressibly optimistic in a way that ends up being pretty naive and counterproductive to like being real or being in reality. Usually those are also stunted adult children, right? They're an adult body, but they're cast backward or didn't ever kind of emigrate from like the childlike notion. I think we assume everything is going to be okay until it isn't. So children are naive and innocent until something, beats them down energetically. And then they have the weight of that. Like it is. It's like you come in light and you could just float away like a balloon. And then you get saddled with things that are heavier about a human incarnation, about being sentient. And then you look more adult, each year. So blue monkey's magical thinking, I think that's like presenting itself right now, and that's cool. I've had some magical thinking, like, wow, maybe that could work out in a way that would feel really good, and I'm open for that, and that's beautiful, right? This time of childlike behavior includes a certain kind of innocence or wonder or splendor, and regarding the world as kind of like, wow, fascinating and amazing and inspiring. And for a moment, you can feel invincible or that anything could happen, and that's magical thinking, right? And then you kind of hit a wall of realism or adult lessons in reality. And right now, there's just a lot of heavy energy to be navigated. We have like a series of wars that were really publicly seen, I think by a broader public than maybe usual, thanks to the internet and our obsession with current events. Like when Trump was elected, I think current events became something that we clung to understand how to cope with his like creation of division and discomfort culturally and globally. And then we were hooked in to being kind of like aware of what's happening in the world, and we got these heavy lessons of back-to-back wars that feel really hard to synthesize, right? So that's a version of, a child may never know about that, but in our adult selves we do, and we have to process it, and we go from magical thinking to like harsher lessons on real life. And so that's what I was going to try to say is, in the blue monkey time that we're in, I think deceit is a real problematic part of a child in an adult body. Like when children tell lies, like, did you take a cookie? No. Like crumbs are coming down their mouth, or it's in their hand still, partly eaten. Like we are on it. Children are deceptive as a coping mechanism, but they're not effective usually at creating an intrigue that would keep their secret. And there's something kind of charming about that, right? Like, oh my goodness, look at this little ego forming. When children are adults, or when that childlike behavior of deception, like, no, I didn't do that, is an adult body, there can be a lot more subterfuge, effective subterfuge. So what I think that blue monkey also offers that can be challenging is just navigating untruth. And you might be remembering untruths right now rather than experiencing them firsthand. But just think, like, there are 20 day signs. They each get 13 days, where we pass through them one day at a time. And they have lessons for us about everything from spirituality to nature and the weather, and I would say ceremony and the animal kingdom. But they also have like morality threaded through them. And so when I want to talk about like honesty versus deceit, Blue Monkey is the place where I would emphasize. Like, it's tricky with Blue Monkey. It's interesting because White Wind is another one that is very much about truth. The truth will out. So if you pass through a White Wind time, truth-telling happens and truth emerges, maybe where there was deceit. But if you want to know, like, well, which of the 20 tribes kind of like challenge us about perceptions that are honest and grounded in reality and, I mean, not harmful, I think Blue Monkey has a struggle there. This sounds to me like one of these reality show like confessions where I'm just about to tell you that someone has been really dishonest with me. And because I feel very guarded talking about this because it is coming up. I mean, I don't have anyone doing that actively right now, but I'm revisiting just like, ugh, you know, especially in relationship history. Like, it hasn't been too much lately, but there was a window of time where I was just dealing with someone who was really aggressively dishonest. And, you know, when people are so aggressively dishonest, it can be like you just become confused and disoriented and lose your original perceptive baseline. And so you get more lost in the madness and the chaos of like, well, I thought if that was true and that isn't, like, what is true? If, you know, you just start imploding. So I feel like that is part of the struggle of us in Blue Monkey right now, at least in my view. I don't want to project that onto you. Maybe you're just like having the best time, like building a tree fort. I have a friend who's going roller skating today, and I'm like, of course. She was on a scooter in the downpour of a rainstorm a few days ago. She's like maximalizing the Blue Monkey experience. Let me just think about what I'm doing that feels blue. Oh, okay, so I did adopt another dog, and that, like I said, that feels like, first of all, it's really childish. Like, how many stuffed animals can I have? Same deal. Like, I'm going to surround myself with these fuzzy creatures. But also the notion of Blue Monkey being about play dates, you know, and connecting. For me, right now, it's animals a little more than people, but it is because dogs can be really playful, you know, and my dogs are being really playful right now. I mean, they're being a little unhinged, actually. But so that's a version of my Blue Monkey moment. Now, what I want to do with the remaining time is be a little more specific about what's coming up. Today is the 4th day of the Blue Monkey wave spell. So if you're listening, then maybe you're kind of leaning into the 5th day, the overtone day. So the first 4 days of any wave spell, I think, are a lot of the work, the weight of it, because the first day attract our purpose for 13 days, and that can feel, it's called magnetic, and it can just feel like, boom, I just got a ball of fate dumped on my lap, and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing now. It wasn't something I chose or thought of. It just got delivered, you know. I attracted my fate. And then the second day, we're like looking at this interesting, you know, karma, and we see within it, like, this is the challenging part. Challenging means I'm going to be strengthened and grow. It's a challenge. It's challenging and invites strength from me, resilience, risk. I'm journeying. I'm going to be an adventurer. I'm questing because this challenge is beckoning me to solve it. And then there is like this sort of resilient purpose that is sort of a baseline of equanimity. The challenge is maybe confusing and disturbing. It's a challenge. It doesn't feel like the problem is solved. But then there's another part of what we've been given that is pretty solid. and we move forward then, right? So the first day we get the whole package. The second day we parcel it out. It's called a lunar day, and we polarize. We get like, this is yin, this is yang, etc. Darkness, light, or light, darkness. And then the third day, the electric day, we add a higher power. Like, I'm using language of recovery when I say that, but you could use God if you're comfortable with that, or a supreme being, or the universe, or you could think about the Maya, who are ascended and living in some part of the star system as an energy field, and they come and help us. I certainly believe that. So on the third day, the electric day, our problem and our solution that kind of coexist but aren't really integrated at all. It's the beginning. Everything is sort of dysregulated and weighty and unfolding. The energy from the higher world realm, the higher power, is soothing, and it helps us orient our lives so that we're going to be of service using the channeled energy of God to solve like our own struggles and be of service in the world. Like, that's the 1, 2, 3 of every wave spell. And it's really important that the word service live focally in your embrace of this pattern of wave spells and following the calendar, because I'm only here teaching it because I believe in being of service, and I believe that being of service is given to us. Like, again, a higher power empowers us to keep going when life is hard, and then we use the power we're given and we emanate it, and others can maybe pick up on it and feel supported. It doesn't have to be one person that you save. It's just sort of, you find your way of being of service, and that's shown to us every time we're in the electric tone, whether it's the third day of a wave spell, or sometimes it's a 28-day moon, or a year can be, a whole year in the Mayan count can be electric. And the question, how can I best be of service, is focal. Then today is the self-existing day, and what we do is we create a form. It's the fourth day of 13, and it looks very much to me like the base of a Mayan temple, which is square at its base, even though it looks kind of triangular when it goes up to the top of its own pyramid. But at the base, it's a square, and that the fourth day is sort of like 4 points along the corners, and that our temple, our wave that we're building, is a temple that reaches to the sky as well. And so it's really important to like set the form correctly. And so today is very oriented toward kind of precision and getting geared up, kind of, I think, handling the first 3 days information. What is my purpose? What is my challenge? How can I best be of service? Okay, let's get that organized in a form of service that I'll grow from. So I told you all that. And it's really funny that when I lean on the table I made, that the camera shakes. That's Blue Monkey, so I'll stop leaning on it. Overtone is the next one, and blue overtone eagle, yellow rhythmic warrior, red resonant earth, white galactic mirror, blue solar storm, and yellow planetary sun. And I'm not going to tell you about all those days because they're the future. I'm just telling you that when we get to the overtone moment, the wave really starts to take off like a beam of light, or the release of pressure. It's called radiance, when something is just emitting rays, like, the sun orb. So instead of it being kind of clunky and sorting out parts and putting things in place, the energy just takes off. And it can feel really empowering, and it can be fast moving. And we pretty much spend the next 5 days, overtone, rhythmic, resonant, galactic, and solar, just aiming for the sky. From overtone until solar, that's like 5 stages all inclusive. We're just rising to the sun it's a wave form, so it rises. And then at the planetary moment, the 10th day, the rising stops, and we find out how we're going to stay right here on this planet. We're not going to join the sun and be ether. So, I mean, this isn't really a beginner version of explaining this thing that I talk about incessantly over and over again, that we are agreeing here to live life in the shape of a wave because nature is so full of wave shapes and forms and straight lines. I mean, is nature full of straight lines? I don't know. But when we have time lines, there's something artificial about it. Instead, we have time waves here, wave spells. I'm just really aware of how important it is in my life after it's been 25 years of living in the 13-day wave spell formations. It's just really important to me that I acknowledge that I've trained my psyche and my body to roll through waves. And it's not even easy. It's definitely not always fun, but it's in my energy field to live like this. So it would be jarring to try to live a different way. And so I'm happy to keep in contact with everyone through the different media that I have at my disposal, that we all have, so that you have a chance to commit to the wave forms and let your life be kind of that undulating and tidal and lunar, like the moon also goes through really clear cycles of light and dark. And so we're just ascribing ourselves to all of that here. So I think this was kind of a somber blue monkey moment, but if you come back to the podcast during the week, I'll be bouncing along and climbing trees and swinging between branches, and we can stay connected to how that feels. I'm Lisa Starr. I am another yourself, and in Mayan we say, in Lakesh.